Got fish. Welcome back, guys. I hope you're having a good day so far. I know my day's been pretty good and it's about to get even better because I got some fish. And guess what? They're going in the sand waterfall tank. So if you don't know about this aquarium, if you've never seen it before, if this is the first time, don't worry, I got you. I'll put two links in the description. One is for the setup of this tank, so you can find out how exactly I was able to construct this, and then the other video will be the 1 month update. At the time of filming this, I think it's been 1 month and 3 weeks, and in that update video, I'll explain why I haven't put fish into the aquarium until now. And actually, I was planning on waiting a little bit longer before putting fish in, but I can't wait any longer. I just can't. I don't think we're gonna run any risk of putting the fish in, and like I said, if you want to know more, you can check out that previous video. So anyway, let's not delay this any longer. Can I get a drum roll, please? This might be a little anticlimactic, but I don't know. I think some of you guys might be into this. Get these guys out of here. We have 30 neon tetras. All right, they're going absolutely wild right now. Their color obviously isn't going to be as good. They're stressed out. They need some time to acclimate. We'll turn the lights off and give them, 30 minutes tops of temperature acclimation. Then we'll get them in the tank, and then we'll turn the lights down for them so they have a little bit of a stress-free window to get acclimated. But before I do that, let's just touch on why I picked neon tetras. Super common fish, probably, I don't know, the most common freshwater tropical fish of all time, maybe. It's kind of anticlimactic, maybe, for some of you guys. The suggestions for fish to put in this tank, there was a million of them. I mean, I asked you guys certainly enough times. I had a tough time picking what I wanted to put in here. I knew they needed to be small. I was gonna go with some type of nano fish. I was thinking Galaxy Rasboras for a long time, and who knows? Like, if these fish don't work out, we might swap them out and try that. But I just had this little thing in the back of my mind that said, dude, put some neon tetras in there, because I think they'll look good. And so that's what I did. So we have 30 of them right here, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, but let's give them their time to acclimate, and let's get them in the tank, and then we'll talk more about this whole aquarium. All right, let's grab these guys. Pour them through our net into our bucket so we don't get any of the fish store water in our new tank. And here we go. The first thing they're gonna do in this tank is ball up and probably hide. I'm actually kind of surprised that they're out in the front here. It probably won't be too long before they find their way back in the back, but who knows? I'm gonna turn the lights back off on the aquarium and let them get used to their new tank. The only reason why they're on is just because I wanted to show you the process of putting them in, and of course we get to take a little look at them here. Hopefully they like it here in their new tank, but let's go ahead and give them some space, turn those lights back off, and let's jump in time forward to the next day and see how they're doing. Hope you guys enjoyed that montage. This is certainly a fun tank to film. I like doing that. And if that's something that you want to see more of in videos, you know, cuts in the vid where there's just no talking, you know, none of me running my mouth, just music and watching the fish and relaxing, let me know down in the comments below and I can certainly add that in. But anyway, let's get back to talking about this tank, okay? It's been like 3 weeks since the last update video, and not a ton has changed. So the Monte Carlo, at least the stuff down here in the foreground, is continuing to fill out. We're getting a little bit closer to that carpet look that I was trying to achieve, and certainly in some of the other areas down on the substrate level of the tank, we're getting the same thing. So over here, we see that the plant is spreading around, and some of the growth up on the top of the rocks is doing what I want it to do, and in other areas it's not. For example, right here on this edge of the waterfall, the Monte Carlo is doing a pretty good job of growing down, and I mean, I am seeing new growth. That's the most important thing. In other areas, the new growth definitely isn't as prolific. For example, this kind of thin area over here, not a ton has been going on, so I don't really know what the deal is with that. It could have just been the original viability of that particular plant that we put in. But I think the real issue is the Monte Carlo just not being able to adhere very well to the Cereus stones. So I did talk about that in the update, that, you know, even a month in, we still don't have very good attachment. My theory was that the root hairs on the Monte Carlo were not able to take advantage of the porosity of the Cereus stone. So when we compared it to the Dragonstone, where, you know, the shrimp tank where I have it on Dragonstone, the attachment is really good. The plant's growing very well. But that's, again, my theory was that the Dragonstone, because it has such a higher surface area, it's much more porous, those root hairs were able to get in there, and that was aiding in the plant being able to grow well. Again, it still could just take a really long time, but if you come over here with me, and we see how really loosely, this stuff isn't attached at all. I was gonna say loosely attached, but that doesn't even really make sense. So the only way that this is staying up here is because the roots of the plant are tucked back into a crack in the rock here. And so oftentimes if I get in and clean, you can see right here, there's new root growth, but it's not attached to the rocks. And I don't know, I can't get it to attach. I don't want to disturb this piece too much because it's important that it's here for the waterfall to work, but check that out. Like, this whole chunk here has roots underneath this, but it's just not holding on to the rock. Now, I don't think at all that means that we're doomed here. The plants are still looking pretty healthy. Like, for example, this portion over here on the right side, it's just tucked in between the glass and the rock, and it looks pretty good. And again, it's not attaching to really anything, but because we're adding fertilizers, we're giving the plant what it needs to be fairly successful. I think it's going to be okay. I think we're going to get from this tank what we want to get from it. The only catch is that we're probably going to get slower growth of the plant because it doesn't have that good attachment, and we might have to deal with some issues later on with maybe the plant mass just getting too big and having to remove chunks or just keep things trimmed really well so that we don't get this huge mass that wants to float up to the top. I can already kind of see that happening with some of the pieces that aren't attached very well. For example, this piece over here in the corner. So hoping that doesn't happen to everything in this tank. We're just kind of crossing our fingers and continuing with the experiment that is this tank. A question that I got a lot on the last video was, how do you keep the sand white? You know, the tank had been set up for a month and my sand was like it is right now. I mean, it's looking pretty good. It doesn't have a lot of debris on it. This portion, you know, the sand waterfall area, is probably not going to show debris at all because it's always moving. So that is, I guess, the answer to that. But then, you know, we have some still areas here in the front and then in the back, and those are doing pretty good. I guess the answer to that is we didn't have fish in the tank, so I wasn't adding fish food. There's not really any waste in the tank to create particles that would discolor the white sand. So now that we have fish, it is probably going to be a lot harder to keep the sand white, at least in these areas where it's not moving. But I'll keep you guys updated on that. Basically, what you have to do is just get in with your siphon, a little mini siphon, and siphon up the debris that lands on top of the sand and give it a good mix every once in a while. And that's exactly what I've done. It's kind of hard to see because of the lighting, but back here in sort of the cavern area of the tank, there has been debris that's fallen down there, just, you know, decaying plant material and stuff, turning into kind of a gray mulm. It's landed back there and certainly in these areas, but when I do water changes, I just go in with a tiny little siphon and very just gently take it off the top. It's just too nice of a day not to come and check out the pond, guys. Let's get our duck out of here so we can see all the way down to the bottom. The dwarf sage is looking like it's starting to think about propagating, so some of these pieces you can see. If you can see that little white thing, of course it's going to focus on my finger, but it looks like we're going to start to see some daughter plants coming off of those, and before we know it, it'll happen really fast. We'll just have a complete carpet down here. I think that'll look really, really cool. Gotta watch out for the bees. They seem to like this Liguigia, kind of interesting. There's no flowers on it, but the Daphnia that we put in here, remember that culture that I put in like a video ago? I don't know, I think it was like a little bit less than a week ago. That culture did not work out, so there's no Daphnia in here. There's only mosquito larvae, not a ton. That's another concern that a lot of you guys have, but it's a really simple fix to get rid of mosquito larvae, and that is mosquito dunks. Okay, so I have some on the way, and I'm going to make a whole video about it, but that's something you definitely can do to help prevent it, and the ones that we have are fish safe, so shouldn't be anything you should have to worry about. Our grasses here in the back are really putting on some height. You can see these are getting up already to the top of the fence. I think when we got them, they were about right here. So I'm really looking forward to watching those mature, as well as all the plants in here. The water celery is, of course, doing its thing and just starting to take over this whole thing. I don't know if the mint's gonna have a chance to really spread out. This plant is definitely taking over, but that's okay. We're just gonna sit back and kind of see what happens here. Fish are coming soon, guys. I got them all picked out. I just have to go in probably maybe this weekend, maybe early next week we'll grab them. So I should have a video for you guys putting fish in this pond, hopefully in about a week. I'm also kind of debating whether or not I should set up another small pond. I have some room over here. We can move this driftwood, and there's a pond that I have my eye on that's a little shallower, which presents its own challenges with temperature swings and things like that, but it's in kind of an interesting shape. And I think it would just be really cool to try. It's getting to the point where it's like I need to do it or I need to not do it, okay, based on the time of the year. So maybe help me make that decision. What do you guys think? Should we do another pond? Let me know down in the comments below. Let's talk about the neon tetras again, all right? So just from filming today, seeing them doing what they do best, which is kind of loosely shoal and sort of dart in random directions, I don't hate their behavior in this tank. At first I kind of thought it was a little distracting because we have the movement of the two waterfalls, and then you put all these fish kind of randomly moving in the front. I didn't completely like it, but it's starting to grow on me. I have a feeling that as the weeks go by, I'm gonna really appreciate having these fish in here. They have a really good contrast with everything in the scape. You know, the green of the Monte Carlo and the coloration of the Suryu stone. I think their coloring works in this tank, and that's not to say that other fish wouldn't have also looked good. I'm sure there's a million combinations that would make this tank look really good and complement it well, but I think we're gonna stick with the neons. Another reason why I picked them is because they're really cheap. Okay, I knew I wanted a significant amount of fish, and if I continue to like these, we're gonna probably double up on them and get 60 in here. Guys, I mean, they're less than $1 a fish. So cardinals were obviously in my mind as well, and the fact of the matter is they're more expensive, and that can be significant when you need to buy a ton of them. I'm happy with the amount of money that I spent to get this effect versus, you know, having to spend 2 or 3 times as much money, right? And I think that's really what it comes down to for most people in this hobby. And I'm not trying to pretend like neon tetras aren't cool and I got them because they were just cheap, okay? Neon tetras are still a cool fish. People love them. I certainly, I wouldn't say love them, but they are a cool fish, and I thought they would go perfect in this tank. So yeah, guys, that's kind of really all that's been going on with this aquarium. I'll be sure to keep you guys updated. The next update, maybe in a couple of weeks, we'll see how the addition of the fish goes as far as maintaining the aquascape and what changes are going to happen as a result of having to feed this tank now. Hopefully we can keep the algae at bay like it has been for the last few weeks, and this just turns out to be, you know, again, one of my all-time favorite tanks. Be sure to let me know down in the comments what you think about the neon tetras in this tank. What would you have put in the sand waterfall tank if you had, you know, anything, you had an unlimited budget, you had access to everything you could have ever thought of? What would you put in here? I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys would have done. Anyway, guys, I think that's going to do it for today's video. If you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell right next to it so you know when I upload the next video. Thanks a million, guys. We'll see you next time.